You know, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, God says that a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife. God designed marriage for pleasure, for partnership, for parenting, and that's the way He intended it. That's the way He designed it. But we live in a world that has taken marriage and made it something very different. And whenever man decides to do something different from God, it creates chaos and perversion. And the same thing that messed with marriage in the garden between Adam and Eve is the same thing that impacts man and marriage today. It's the thought that man's way is better than God's way. One of the things that impacts marriages today is the promiscuity and the idea of what sex is and what sex isn't. God created sex. It's a good thing, but He designed it to take place within the boundaries of marriage. That's where it's blessed. And so when we go outside of marriage and we engage in what God intended to be defined by marriage outside of marriage, it creates pain, it creates problems, and it lessens what God intended to elevate, and that's a relationship between one man and one woman for one life. The other issue is what society does to marriage. Society changes the definition a little bit and says that marriage can be with anybody at any time. Well, that's not God's way, and it's certainly not God's best. All biblical marriages are legal, but not all legal marriages are biblical. And so God has given us that definition. Again, it's His plan. It's the right way. It's the godly way. And so regardless of what culture accepts or says is okay, God's truth is unchanged when it comes to marriage. God doesn't change the plan based on the time that we live in. And finally, marriages have become somewhat disposable. It's getting kind of easy for people to say why they need to get out of marriage and come up with all kind of reasons like no-fault divorce. Sometimes they think in terms of that little phrase that says, as long as we both shall love, is the out that they tap into, when really in that covenant it says, as long as we both shall live. Marriage is a lifetime commitment. It's not just one day you feel like it, one day you don't feel like it. It's not throwaway. It's that marriage that depends on the Lord Jesus Christ to be all that Christ determined it to be when He designed it and defined it. You see, Hebrews tells us that we are to honor the marriage bed, that we are to keep it holy, that we are not to allow promiscuity and the pleasures and the perversions of this world to come in and take what He designed as good and something that brings Him glory, because that's what marriage does. Marriage brings glory to the Lord Jesus Christ. He's not changed His mind. He hasn't changed the design, and He hasn't changed the definition. Marriage is unchanged. And when we honor God and His plan and His purpose, it changes us and it glorifies Him. So I pray today, when you think of marriage, be grateful to God and understand He hasn't changed His mind. God bless you, and thank you for being with us today.